Hello guys and welcome to our first JavaScript lecture review with team 1. So the first thing we did was, we created a HTML file and we called it index.html, then created the first var, let and const. So I'm going to be explaining in this series. The reason why I'll be doing the explanation is so maybe you already have some of these codes that we've written, and if you've not, it will be very quick and detailed. So we looked at how to declare variables, and I know maybe Ajayi will be saying, John, but I was so excited that he got to understand some of this concept, and many of you are also following along, and that excites me a lot, and I also believe it should also excite you. You don't have to actually restrict your learning, material. Like, I don't really know the word, but don't restrict it to just our classes. I don't even restrict mine to just one textbook. I have like a tons of textbooks that's really helped me to figure out things. So the first thing we did was to create variables, and variables are basically containers. So I want you to see a variable like a container the container can be empty, and the container can hold something. So let's say I have let's bag. So when I have my semicolon, I've not assigned anything into this container called bag. It's empty, and that's why when I let's console.log, when I say console.log bag, sorry guys about the background noise. When I say console.log bag, and let me save this and open up. So we have a value of okay guys, just 2 sec. Let's open up our HTML and uncomment the first one, since we'll be starting from scratch again. So let me get this, just a sec guys. So you get to see undefined. And what does it mean, undefined? So undefined actually means that I have my bag, but I've not assigned anything to it. I've not defined this bag. Like the bag is empty, so it doesn't have like a definite value. So, and that's why we have undefined. Now if I should reassign, because I'm using the let's keyword, let me space this properly. If I should say bag, let me say equals, let's give it a string, since we all know what a string is. Data types with what, with the quotation, the quotes and unquotes. So I could just say let bag be equals to, let me give my phone. Ensure you always include your semicolon. Now I've assigned something into my bag. I assigned a string. I can reassign. I can come here and say bag, I want to reassign a number, and it takes that number. Now, but what I actually want you to know is when, for example, if I should, I think Shehu should, no, Ajayi should, would actually connect with this properly. Now see, I'm having bag is not defined. It means that I've not even declared it itself. I've not declared the variable at all. I've not said let or const variable name. So while this is the keyword to declare variables, this is the variable name. So I believe this should actually explain the process. So the next thing we looked at data types in JavaScript. Now there are tons of data types, and we have the number, which doesn't have the quotes, just a number. We have strings, and this, when 90 has quotes and unquotes, it becomes a string. So, and we're able to figure that out with type of. So I could just come here and let me connect it, but let me connect back here in my index. Sorry guys. So I have to go to my index and I'll comment this one, then I'll get this active. So when I save, Okay, not this one. I think, yeah, this one, right? So I'll do this. Then I'll have to comment everything down. Comment everything down, right? So yeah. So I'll have all this commented. So you see, this type of method, type of what's the type, what's the data type of name2 string, what's the data type of name of this number. So we could just come here and say console.log type of number. So you get the idea. So there's nothing to stress here. The next we saw was a reference data type called arrays, like a collection of items. So this is the collection of items, and just know that an array, and also figure out like the structure of an array. An array has square brackets, unlike an object. So let's open this up. So then one thing I want you to pay attention to is the structure of an object. The only way you can actually figure this out is to try to write it. I didn't want to start writing this code. Pay attention to the structure. Okay, say let's write a new object here. So I could just say let person2. So I'll have equals, then I have my curly brackets. Then this is a collection of name value pairs. So I have a particular name. It must not be name. I can just have user. I could just say users. So I could just say user1. User1 must have like a value, name value pairs. I could just say James. Then there must be a comma to actually get to the next. I could just say user2. I could just say John. You get the idea. And it mustn't just be strings. I could just say John. Then I could just say user3, and user3 can be Jack. So I could just now have a list. I could just say user1 hobbies. I could maybe have not that. I could have like a list. So you can see like an object takes even list. It takes almost every other data type. So I could just say playing. I can have multiple stuff. So I could just say playing and jumping. And I just wanted to get the idea. So I could just have special number, special num. I could just have like 60. So you see, it takes both strings, arrays, numbers. It can also take an object. I can say user family. Then I have an object of name. I could say farm1. I'm just figuring things out. Farm1. I could just say John and children. John and children, right? And so many other things. So you get the idea. And if I want to see my objects, I'll say console.log user. So when I have my semicolon and save, I have my objects here. So I would encourage you to, when you try to write them, they become part of you. So the third thing we looked at type conversions, like converting from a particular data type to another. So the first thing we did was we declared a variable, and when we console.log this var, we would have what's undefined because we've not assigned anything to it. So you get the idea, right? We've not assigned anything to it. So the first thing we did was we converted a boolean which actually holds two values, true and false. So true 0 and false 1. So So we are gonna, through 1 and false, and false 0. I keep making this mistake, which is not that good. So we could use this method to convert, to string. We converted this boolean to a string, converted the number to a string using the string method. It must not just be this. I could also do val equals to string. Then I'm going to pass, I'll pass maybe, let's say, I could just say 23 dot, to string. Let me just grab this, and I could just say right. So we looked at some math operations, like all the normal arithmetic operations that you and I know: multiplication, addition, and division, and all of that. I could do 2 times 4. That's what I mean. 2 divided by 5. 1 plus 1. So we don't actually have to stress so much here. Then we looked at some math objects, how to figure out pi. If I did math dot pi, by default it gives me the pi value and the Euler number 2.7 thereabout. Then I could do math dot round, which actually rounds to the nearest integer, and so I could do 2. If I do 2.3, it's going to give me 2. If I do 2.6, it's going to give me 3. So you understand. So the next that we looked at was math.ceil, which by default it's not going to be doing rounding to the nearest integer. This one is going to be rounding above. So if I say math.ceil 2.6 is going to give me 3. Even if I say 2.2 to give me 3. You understand? So the next that we looked at was math.floor. Just as we had math.ceil, which will round upwards, math.floor will round was downwards. So in all cases, even if I have 2.9, it will still give me 2. The next we looked at was to find the square roots, absolute value, which converts to positive. Then we could find the minimum value. We could do math.mean, gives to actually give us the minimum value between numbers. If I have 2 and 9, to give me 9. If I have 2, 9, and if I had 0, to give me 0. If I had -1, to give me -1. So in the same fashion, we could do max. So you get the idea. So I think that was all. Then the last that we did was to figure out how to get a random number, and we have the math.random, which pops out the pseudo random number. So I could do math.random to give me, just keeps giving me random numbers between 0 and 1, and just like what this default math.random gives me between 0 and 1. If I want to step it up, I could just say times 6. So it's going to give me between 0 and 6. So but it won't get to 6. So that's what it does. And there's also a bunch of other math objects. I think we are going to be looking at math.parse, parse int and parse float, converting integers, converting strings to integers, and also get to know floating numbers, which are decimal numbers. So the next thing we looked at was string methods, concatenation. Won't be explaining this because we already know it. Like when we have a string and we have another string, we could actually add it too. So, and that's what's called string concatenation. So we looked at some special functions: the alert function, the prompt function, and the confirm. So, and we attempted this. We actually built a simple storyteller game in class. So what this did was, I think I'll also leave it as a challenge. I will come right here. I'll leave it as a challenge. I'll just explain and leave it as a challenge. I would come here, I think, string storyteller. Just a sec, guys. So I can't figure out the link, so let me comment this. I just want this to be short and precise, and I don't want to just be redoing and typing codes. There will be time for that when we start doing like more advanced concepts, but these are like concepts that I know that you could just figure out. So I'll say 07 underscore story teller. Yeah, in the future I'll do a detailed crash course, detailed JavaScript crash course that one could always review, but because of the because of the situation at hand, like we just need to do the review. I don't want to bore you. I just want us to follow up what we've been doing so we don't move off track. And so I could just say what this game does, it prompts us for our name. I could just say John, adjective, so lazy. John is not lazy. I could just say a place. I could just say the earth. I could just say change. Then I say, okay, have you selected all the necessary options? I'll say yeah. Then it tells me, it pops out this message. We use document.write to achieve this, just as we see what we use to achieve this. Just as we use console.log to log things into our console, so see it here. But document.write to, like, this is like we touching the DOM, even when we've not started doing anything there. So there was once a lazy programmer named John who wanted to use JavaScript to change the world. So I believe when you look at this stuff, you'll figure it out. We just had to create a bunch of variables using the let keyword and did string concatenation, like everything we've been doing. So the last that we looked at array methods. Okay, this was what we stressed the much in class. So if you're actually on your PC, the first thing I'll tell you to do is to create two arrays, just as we've done here. We created an array of random numbers. We were actually the ones who just picked these numbers at random. Then an array of fruits. So you could the essence of doing this in class was to so we could like get our hands dirty with what we already know already, with what we've already done. Not already. So the first property we looked at was the .length property, and what this does is it will actually spit out the length of our array. So let's just grab this array. We'll be doing it in the console. I'll be explaining it here. So when I have this array here, then I want to get the length of this array. So I'll say fruits dot length. So it's telling me that the length of this array is 3. So the next thing was to get the position of the items in our array, like to know where a particular item, and having known the position, we could like fish out a particular item. So we were able to do that using this. So we could just say the array name. Then I want to know the item occupying position 0. So orange position 1, and grapes position 2, and so this was how we were able to do that. And so other things we did in class were we looked at push and on shift. The push method actually would add an element to to the end of our array. So while the on shift to the beginning of our array. So we could just do fruits let's start with on shift first. On shift, so I want to add banana. So when I print my array out, when I say, yeah, so when I see banana has been added to the first, let me zoom out. So then if I want to add to the end of my array, I'll say dot push. I could just say tomatoes. So when I print out my array, you see I have tomatoes at the end of my array. So the other thing, so we're able to achieve that with shift, on shift and push. So take note, why push is used to add an item to the end. On shift, it's used to add an item to the beginning. So now to remove items from our list, we looked at shift and pop. So shift is used to remove items from the beginning of our array, while pop is used to remove items from the end of our array. I think we did something like that here. Yeah, here. Yeah. So yeah, we did shift and we assigned it into a variable because it doesn't really delete it entirely. We could catch that element when we remove it and assign it into a variable, which was what we did here. So I'm going to do fruits dot shift. So what do I want to shift? I want to shift just shift, since it's actually removing stuff. So when I see it actually removed it, but it held it. The value is actually held. But when we go back to our list, you see it has been removed from the list, but it's still in memory. So I'm going to do pop. Pop removes the last item on our list. So when I say fruits, you see that tomatoes have been rejected from our list. So the next thing we looked at was we could sort our list. We could, using the sort function, sort method. So then everything will be sorted in alphabetical order. And the last array method we looked at. You know what, guys? There are a lot of array methods. So if we should, the more we improve, the more we explore, the more we get to know them. So the more we say, okay, I need to do this kind of thing. Can I achieve that on an array? It will actually prompt you to go, researching and figuring things out. You get the idea. So we looked at splice. I think this was where everyone wanted to say, oh, what's it with splice? So let's splice out some values. It's actually used to, I wrote it down here, remove elements from our array and replace too. It can be used to replace. So I could say fruits dot splice. So I want to splice from the item at the 0th position. We won't get to 1. So what it does is that it starts at 0 and it stops at 1. So when something starts at 0 and stops at 1, it just gets rid of the item occupying the 0th position, which is grape. So when I should look at my list again, I just have orange. And so understand splice. For example, if I want to get rid of everything in my array, I'm going to do splice. I'm going to start from 0 and I'm going to do fruits, not frame. I'm going to do fruits dot length. An error. Okay, I said fruits instead of fruits. Oh, fruits, not fruits. So errors are very awesome. So when I should look at my fruit again, I have like an empty array. Now what this did was, the length of my array is actually 2. So, and when I say splice from 0 to 2,
it starts from 0, it removes the item at the 0th position, it goes to 1, removes the item at the first position, and it doesn't get to 2. So you get the idea. You just practice it and you figure it out. And I think this should be the end. This was the much we did. I didn't want to make the video a very long one. I want to encourage you that JavaScript can be cranky and creepy at the inception, but lines will begin to fall in place if you keep on writing them. So it's just like learning a new language, just as I've always told you. You could start with writing just very basic arithmetic programs. Try to figure out how to calculate the area of a triangle using like the little you've learned. You could say let area, you could say let side 1 be equal to, you give it a number, let side 2 be equal to this, let area be equal to side 1 times side 2, console.log area. You get the point. You could use const and see how everything works when you console.log it. Fall in love with console.log, and I hope to see you in the next class, pumped up and filled with the thrill and zeal to know more and learn more. Do have a wonderful Sunday and go to church. And I am not compelling you to. So bye guys.